Welcome to the Bergstrom Bunch podcast. I'm Jason.
And I'm Kathy.
Today we're going to talk about values. So the question is, what would you do if you received $100 million?
Ooh, that's a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
I definitely would buy a Tesla with gas prices as they are, for sure. Okay.
You could also afford
Some
a few
solar
tanks
panels,
of gas.
a few tanks of gas. I think I'd buy a gas station. Why not do that?
All right. So if we think about, a lot of people dream about receiving that much money. But what would you rather have, $100 million or a good reputation?
I think I'd like to have both.
Some people do. That's cool.
But if I had to choose one over the other, I'd rather have a good reputation. I'd rather be known for being a person of character and discipline and strong morals than
because we can probably name a few people that have that kind of money, but we wouldn't want to be them. We wouldn't want to trade lives with them.
No, unfortunately for some, money actually, can corrupt who they are. So it's important before you have the money to know who you are and what foundation you're grounded in and what your values are.
There are wealthy people whose lives are trash. What Scripture says, a good name is more desirable than great riches.
Yes. And there are some very wealthy people that do have a good name. So that's why I said I'd like to be both. But certainly our values fuel our habits and behavior, and that determines what we're known for.
Okay, so it's our values that get us there. People that know you know what you value. So let's try this. I'm going to throw out some names, and you just tell me something
dangerous.
that you would assume about them based just on their name. Let's start with an easy one, Tom Brady.
Oh, Tom Brady. Okay, are we talking about his stellar football career or Tom Brady the man?
What does he value? Tom Brady.
Oh, definitely hard work, discipline, training. He's very driven. You can see that. And from what I know of him, as far as reputationally in the media, it seems that he values his family very much as well.
All right. Let's go on the other end of the spectrum. Non-athletic, non-rich Mother Teresa.
Oh, definitely selfless.
Oh, yeah.
She cared for orphans and just gave her life to serve the poor.
All right. Elon Musk.
Elon Musk. Well, brains. I mean, obviously very, very smart. Tesla. He wants to colonize Mars, I think. I'm not sure where the values are there per se, but I think he's a builder. He values building new and innovative things.
One more. Martin Luther King Jr.
Oh, goodness. He valued freedom. He valued people. And you could just see he was very passionate. He loved God, and he wanted to see people of all colors be content with one another and equal.
So what we want to talk about today is if you don't set your values, if you don't determine what you're about, someone else is going to set your values for you.
Oh, true that. Or society. But the movies you watch, the people you follow.
That's it. But you can set your values.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about values. Why are they important? What is a value?
What is a value? Well, a value is something that maybe you have conviction about. If you value it, you're going to pursue it. So it's interesting because we plan our lives out when it comes to our academics. You got an academic plan, a career plan. You map that out. Building a business, you map that out. A fitness plan, you map that out. But oftentimes we don't map out what our own journey is going to be and what we're rooted and grounded in.
So let's go back to business, because every successful business that we've studied has a set of values that they've written out. What is important?
Okay, what is Chick-fil-A known for? Their hospitality.
Yeah,
for sure.
My pleasure.
Yeah, my pleasure. Yeah, keep saying that, baby. My pleasure.
But they map that out ahead of time. They set a course.
Especially when I ask you for that $100 million, say, my pleasure.
Oh, if I had it to give, yeah. But your values also help you make decisions, right? Mm-hmm. If you know what's important to you, you're going to know how to decide on something.
Yeah. Well, your values, like I've said, they affect your habits and your behavior. So what you value is what you're going to put your time and energy towards. It's what you're going to spend your money on. It's going to be an extension of who you are in everything that you do.
Do values shape your character, or does your character shape your values?
Well, that's an interesting question to ponder. That's a very interesting question to ponder.
I just thought of it, so I don't have.
You just thought of it.
So, well, here's the thing.
I think, you know what? I think it depends on what your character is rooted in. So, yeah, your character and values, they are definitely intertwined.
Well, when we started the gym, we had nothing. We had an empty warehouse in concrete, but we lined out what our values are. And the values were some things that we were about, but it was also an objective, a goal. It was something to shoot for.
Yes.
Something that we want to grow into, something that we want to become.
Okay, so I'm going to rewind here. Actually, I think your character determines your values because you can value discipline, but if you have poor character, you're going to be disciplined in the things that maybe are not healthy. You might be driven in certain areas that end up being not healthy. So I think that, I mean, they are very much intertwined, but I think that when I think of our values, they are rooted in who we are, but they are also are expressed in what we do. So, and what we do is indicative of the character that we have.
I think that converse is also true, that setting a value, like this is something that's important to me. It's also something you're striving after. Like maybe you're not disciplined, but you want to be there. And so
sure.
you're going to set
Yep.
that as a priority.
Yes.
And so we shape our values and our values shape us.
Well, and that's why I said it's, you know, it's interesting that we plan so many different things out because we want success in those areas, but we don't think about having success in the values that we're adopting.
Well, so this is what we wanted to talk about, is that when we studied leadership and business, we saw that successful businesses set out what they value and they lined out their values. And that was a guiding force for corporate decision making, for their employees, for the culture that they were setting forth. And we realized that there's something more important than businesses, and that is families, because families are the bedrock, the foundation of a healthy society. And if a business can set a value, how much more important is it for families to determine what they're about?
Absolutely.
Because as a family, we wanted to leave a legacy, something that will carry on for generations.
Yes.
Because we see that in society, if the family is fixed, everything is fixed. Studies show that, we'll just zero in on the importance of dads, that if there's a dad in the home who is attentive to his kids, we look at all the issues in society: drug use, teenage pregnancy, kids running away, suicide, depression, grades, we could go on and on and on, attendance at school. All those metrics go in the right direction when there's a caring, attentive dad in the home.
Yes. Well, and those keywords there, caring, attentive dad. So just having a masculine presence in the home doesn't necessarily make the difference. It's a masculine presence that's attentive and is intentional about setting the values that the home is going to have and his expectations of his children to fulfill those values and, you know, embrace them and allow those values to mold and shape who they're becoming.
So there's something we did as a family several years ago when our kids were young. It was as we started bringing new kids into our family that we were adopting.
Yes.
We decided we were going to line out what our family values were. We were going to put them on paper.
Yes.
We're going to mark it. And so...
Yeah, so just to say that we've not been perfect in this because we didn't outline the values on paper for our kids when they were young. But it's interesting that when we brought the new adoptive kids in and we brought all the kids together to formally outline our values, the kids already knew what those values were. It wasn't like we were sitting there around the table going, what do we value? And, you know, and just trying to conjure up something that we were going to strive towards. We actually came up with a set of values that were already things that were embedded in what our family was about.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that process a little bit, how we brought the kids
All right,
into that.
dive into it.
Okay. So it's several family nights in a row. We passed out note cards to the kids and we had them write on there one value per note card. What is important to this family? And we got a big variety of things. Some kids wrote discipline. Actually, that was a comment that came up several times. Discipline, exercise, fitness, God, serving people, fun, and we took
community.
Yeah. So we took the note cards and we grouped them together. One was God, one was faith, one was Jesus. So we grouped, that was one
thematically,
pile. Yeah. Exercise, fitness, health, that was another pile. And we wanted to narrow it down because we could have had 15 values.
Yes.
That's a lot. That's too many to remember. I don't want to remember.
And of course,
15.
every kid wanted their idea to be the main
Front and
idea.
center. Yeah, this was a process, but
Yeah.
it was fun to incorporate the kids, fun to see what they thought was most important to this family. But we knew we wanted to bring it down to 5, which
Yes.
in studying businesses, that's kind of a good number. Business between 4 and 6, 5 is kind of a sweet spot. It's memorable. Because the values aren't everything that's important to you. It's what is the most important thing. When push comes to the shove, if you have to choose choice A or choice B, what's going to help you decide what is most valuable, what's most important?
Yeah, well, and I think too for us when we outlined it, we said, what do we want people to think of when they think of our family? What do we want to be known for? What do each of you kids want to be known for? And that really helped us to narrow it down categorically to come up with the acronym. As a pastor, pastors always love acronyms, so why don't you go ahead and talk about that?
I don't love acronyms as much as some, but this was fun. So our last name is Bergstrom. Berg means mountain or rock, and strum means stream, mountain stream. But we want to tie off this rock theme as a strong foundation. Our family verse is Jesus said, whoever listens to these words of puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house upon the rock. And so then the parable goes on to talk about streams and storms that came and beat against the house, but it did not fall because its foundation was on the rock. So our values are ROCKS. R is righteousness, doing the right thing no matter what. O is others before self. And that's a hard one with siblings because siblings are always pushing and shoving. You're breathing my air. Get your sock off of my side of the line. You stink. Move over. Siblings are always battling for the top spot. And so to put others before yourself.
Some siblings are always trying to get to the food faster than anybody else as well.
It's always the boys, isn't it?
Well, one in particular that comes to mind. See, reputation.
Oh,
there
man.
it is, reputation.
All right, C is Christ followers. That Jesus lined out some things, and how can we walk in that? How can we obey that? How can we become more like Jesus?
Yes. Well, and of course for us, that's how we live our lives, is trying to be Christ-centered. So every value that we have comes directly from him. And that's where our conviction is too, because we recognize that that if we are following Christ, that we need to live as he lived and love people the way he loved people. So that one kind of really overshadows all the others.
Yeah, absolutely.
All the others are going to flow exactly from that.
But we couldn't have changed it because then it would have been corks. And so
and
that's
that
weird.
that would have been
had to
weird.
do it in the right order.
And our kids would have not liked it.
Yeah. But corks.
We're a
float.
bunch
Okay.
of quirks.
Quirks? I don't know. Anyway, so K is kingdom minded.
Yes.
Now, this one maybe needs a little explanation because we all want to build our own kingdom, our own house, our nice car. But we're living for God's kingdom, which doesn't always see tangible benefits on earth. But Jesus said we can store treasure away in heaven.
Yeah.
By obeying him.
Well, and with everything that's going on in the world right now, obviously we've seen over the centuries that, kingdoms rise and they fall. But there is only one kingdom that remains forever, and that's God's kingdom, which is why we focus on that.
Yeah, your stuff can be taken away.
Yeah. And I've had to really switch gears and just remind myself of that because with everything that's happened, in Afghanistan and now Ukraine, and you just see all this unrest around the world, that fighting for a kingdom is not something that's a battle that you're necessarily going to be able to win.
Your freedom can be taken away.
That's right. Everything. So.
And S is stewardship. So this idea is that everything we own, and we broke it down into 3 things: our time. We have a limited amount that we don't know how much.
Yep.
Our talent is our abilities, our gifts, and T is our treasure. That's our stuff. That's our car. That's our bank account. That's our house. Those things are not ultimately ours, but they've been given to us by God. And if God wanted to take them away, he doesn't need to ask our permission. So understanding they've been given by God for God's purposes, we're merely God's managers or his stewards.
Yes. And that when you think of it from that perspective too, then it really dictates how you're going to use your time, talent, and treasures, and for the purpose of not only building his kingdom, but building up other people, developing yourself as well. Self-care is important. The relationships that you have are going to be an extension of who you are and what you value as well. And I think even of going back to righteousness, that's a tough one. It really is a tough one because righteousness is being right with God, which means that God is the only one really that sees that. And so I have a quick story on that one. I'll never forget. And this was, it was so stressful for me because it was a busy day. I had gone into Costco and I leave Costco and I'm loading up my car and I look at the receipt and realize that there was an item they hadn't charged me for. And I was just like, oh my goodness. And the lines were pretty long. But sure enough, I had to grab whatever kids were with me. I can't remember now. And run back in there, wait in line just to pay for this single item. And I wasn't just going to leave it because we didn't live near Costco, so driving back up there to get it would have been a bigger hassle. So anyway, but the thing is, nobody would have known.
Yeah.
Nobody would have known, but I would have known, and God knew. And so that's where, if a value that I have is righteousness, then I'm going to go above and beyond and out of my way to make sure that I'm living up to that standard. Which is, a deeply held value. Yeah, because if you don't rise up to your own standard when you have values, then it's really not a value for you. So it's just kind of a passing thing, or something that, well, if it's convenient, I'd like to do it.
Yeah.
Versus no, even I'm going to do it even if it's not convenient.
Now, once we set the values, we reiterated to the kids that this is what defines success for us. More important than a college degree or driving a new car or buying a house at a young age, that living out the family values, because if you're doing that, if following God leads you to live in a third world country for the benefit of others and you never own a home, then we view that as success. That is success in our eyes, versus you could become that 100 millionaire but be a jerk. And we could name some names. We're not going to, but we know the people. We've seen them on TV. We see them in the news. They're wealthy, and we don't want to be that. You could be that, and we don't view that as success.
It's interesting, though, because even when we think about wealthy people and what they value, you do see a values shift, though, whether it's temporary or permanent. You do see a value shift when individuals do embrace Jesus and begin to value what he values. I just think of Kanye West and just how his values shifted, and it was very evident in his music. It was evident in his home. Kim came out publicly and was talking about the type of father he was becoming for North, and not wanting her to wear makeup at a young age, and just, setting some of those boundaries because his values had changed. And I think of Justin Bieber as well. In his music, his values had changed. He began talking more about God. I mean, I don't know where these people are at in their relationship at this point in time with God, but you do see clearly that when people embrace Jesus and they embrace his teachings, they absolutely change, and the values are very evident. They're seen.
Yeah. I think those two names also underscore the importance of maintaining your values and maintaining that relationship and continuing to press into that, because it's easy to drift.
Oh, absolutely. Especially in Hollywood.
Oh, yeah.
You better know what you value if you're going to step into that arena.
But it's something we continually had to reinforce with the kids. And so, one way we did that was our annual family camping trip.
Yeah.
And over each big meal that we'd cook, so breakfast and dinner, I would assign one of the kids one of the values to teach to the other kids. Now, everyone knew them. They knew what was coming up next. But when you're teaching it, you remember it. And so they were part of reinforcing it to one another.
Yeah.
Because we wanted to stick.
Repetition.
We want to see our great-grandkids living out the family values.
Well, and I think that's true with the friends that we choose, the people we choose to spend our time with. I notice that I'm far more productive when I'm spending time with friends that are disciplined as well. And I'm driven more in my physicality, or I'm driven more to be more highly educated and, mentally, emotionally fit. Just the people that you interact with, those that you're closest to, I should say, also influence their values then become your values in certain ways, and vice versa. So you really want to spend time, like I think of the verse, bad company corrupts good character. So when you're spending time with people that, just want to, and I'm not against people who play video games, but if that's all they want to do all day, and you're spending time with them, then that's what you're going to spend your time on. You can't get time back. So anyway, really those values come into play everywhere we go, and the choices that we make are going to be influenced by those things.
Yeah. So on the flip side, which you said, I just want to reiterate that your values are going to impact other people. And so that's the cool part. Other people's values impact you. If you don't set your values, they will set them for you, but you can set your values and they will impact others. So that's our challenge, is take some time, take some effort, determine what you're about, what your family's about, write it down, print it out, make it into a plaque, paint it on your wall, put it as your screensaver, whatever's going to help reinforce it. Tattoo it on your forehead. You see it every time you look in the mirror. Other people can see.
That's a little extreme, but
hey, whatever is going to, right? If it helps build your character.
Well, I think too, when it comes to establishing your values, if you haven't already, and you're moving in that direction, then you really want to make sure that you're also protecting yourself from other influences that are going to steal those things from you initially until it becomes habitual for you. So, for example, if you're a person that's trying to get fit and that's something that you value, then you're going to have to limit yourself when it comes to friends that want to go out to eat all the time, or engaging in certain activities that are going to be a temptation for you to overindulge, or that are going to deviate you from whatever fitness schedule you have. And that one hits home for me right now because the kids just took you out to an amazing burger place for your birthday. And I had to bow out because burgers and fries are my kryptonite. So anyway, who doesn't love a good burger? But I especially love fries too. So anyway, but just to say that, because I'm still moving back in this direction of making fitness a strong value, because it used to be for me. And then, I sort of veered off a little bit, got busy, and a lot of different things happened. And so now that's something that I'm really striving for. And I've just had to determine,
you're doing a great job of it.
Well, thank you. But I've just had to determine that, certain sacrifices are going to need to be made in order for me to make this a bedrock foundation of a value for me again.
Yeah, it's because something that's important.
Yeah.
Well, we shared our values. What's important to us? The question for those listening is, what are your values?
Yes.
I mean, you could steal ours, I suppose, or we didn't copyright them. But what's more valuable is figuring it out for yourself. What do you value? What does your family value? Line it out and live by it.
Absolutely.
Make it happen. It's who you are, but it's also a goal, something you're shooting for, something you're striving for. And in striving for it, you're going to become a better person.
Well, and two, rocks is just our categories. There's so much that falls under each category as
absolutely.
well, because we have other values. I mean, I very much value conservation. So if people just leave water running or, things like that, lights on all the time.
That's stewardship.
That's
You're
a
a bad
value.
steward.
That's
Yeah,
a value
you're a
that
bad
I
steward.
have. And so anyway, just to say that each of those categorically has other things that are listed underneath them, because Jesus makes us care about the things we would otherwise not care about. And so, I really try to take that to heart as far as foundationally for myself, what can I be doing better? What can I better improve? Because we always can be better. And if I say I value people, well, how is that expressed? If it's others before self, I mean, that's transferred even into our business, because one of the values that the kids, all of the ninja kids, have to learn and memorize is honor, which is others before
Honors
myself.
puts you before me.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so you've had kids, all the coaches have had kids they've had to put at the back of the line because they weren't living up to that value. So two, it's transferable, everywhere. So whatever we build is going to be a reflection of what we value, whatever we put our time towards. And I'm being redundant here, but I think it's worth remembering that what you put your time towards, that's going to demonstrate what you value. What you spend your money on, that demonstrates what you value. Yeah. Whether or not you are well kept demonstrates if you value yourself. Even, do I value me enough not to overindulge, but do I value me enough to take care of me so that I can put others before myself and not always have it be a me-centric, mentality that I adopt. So all of this is good stuff. So again, I guess just reiterating, a good name is more desirable than great riches, and our reputation is really far more worthy of our focus than running after money and running after material possessions.
Yeah. What are you building? We're hoping to build a legacy. We want the last name Bergstrom to mean something.
That's right.
And so as you listen, that's the question. What are you building? How are you going to line it out? What are you going to define it as? Line it out, write it down, and run after it.
Awesome.
All right. Well, hey, thanks for joining us. We are so glad to have you. As always, we value your feedback. Be sure to like and subscribe so you can stay in tune with the new episodes coming out. And we look forward to having you back again real soon.